Project. And I think before I start sharing the slideshow, I'd like to just go ahead and have myself and Jean introduce ourselves. And so I am Becky Carson Eisenman, and 9 years ago in California, I was asked by Compassionate Boise to go to this training and for Toolbox Project. And at the end of it, I went up to Mark Collin, who is the founder, and I said, I need this program for my community. And so from there, it's been a collaborative process with Mark and Toolbox Project. And I've used Toolbox in my classroom for 8 years. It's in over half of the Boise School District schools and West Ada. We've done trainings for the YMCA, the after school cares programs, churches and nonprofits. And it's happening that the pediatricians in the area see a difference in a wellness in the students from schools with Toolbox. And so now we are literally doing the corporate training for Pacific Source Insurance, because they see the value for building resiliency and empowering their employees. So that's me, Becky Carson.
All right, and I'm Jean Lovelace. I am a longtime educator, so 30 years in education, 10 years in healthcare, and Becky and I are, we're forming a little cooperative to go forward with more Toolbox training. I used Toolbox in the Boise Public Schools at several schools that I worked with, including some kind of high needs, Title I, lots of immigrant refugee type clientele, and also trained numerous schools in the Boise district in Toolbox. And what we find is that if this is a program that people believe in and use the language from, it is very straightforward, it's very simple, and it's something that leaders can get behind because it is, it's fun and it's very customizable to lots and lots of situations. And it's all about what we teach adults and children to do with their own, how to manage their own strong emotions and their reactions to different situations. So it becomes kind of the teach piece in social emotional learning. And that's the exciting part, because people walk away thinking, wow, I could probably use this in some of my situations. So that's what we hope to share with you today. All right.
Great. Thank you, Jean. And so now I'm going to move into my slideshow. And so we'll be just touching on what Toolbox is, the pedagogy behind Toolbox, what some of those activities are for creating a foundation. And this is applicable for community resilience because it works and supports every other program that we've seen out there as far as social emotional. And we'll talk a little bit about putting the tools to work, implementation, and supporting our community. And then we'd like to look at a longitudinal study with you. And then we have time at the end for questions and what your personal takeaway is.
All right.
So I'd like to start right here with, this is what we call our number one this is the foundational activity. The first day of school, first day of school, the first day or in a classroom, in a family, in a corporation. I'm going to share with you the common language of Toolbox. And so as I share a tool and a tagline, I'm going to also show you a hand gesture. I'd like you to mute your computer. And as I read through tools and taglines, read through them with me. All right. So the first tool is the breathing tool. And I think that's a great one to start with. Here's the hand gesture, pulling our hands aside. This gives a kinesthetic, nonverbal hand gesture. Can you see me? There's Jean. So let's say the name of the tool and tagline, breathing tool. I calm myself and check in.
I calm myself and check in.
Next is the quiet safe place tool. This is the hand gesture for the quiet safe place. We put our hands here. I remember my quiet safe place.
I remember my quiet safe place.
Next is the listening tool. I listen with my ears, eyes, and heart.
I listen with my eyes, ears, and heart.
The next gesture for empathy is our hands back and forth like this. I care for myself. I care for others.
I care for myself and I care for others.
The personal space tool has a hand gesture of creating that boundary around yourself. I have a right to my space. You have a right to yours. Next is the using words tool. The hand gesture for that is like writing in the air. I use the right words in the right way at the right time for the right reason. Next is the garbage can tool. Here's the hand gesture, like flipping the lid of a garbage down, or if you're standing, put your hand on your hip and pretend like you're throwing trash through the trash can lid. I let the little things go. Next is the taking time tool, which we just tap on our wrist. I take time in and time away. Next is the please and thank you tool. This is like putting, the hand gesture for this is like turning a key in the lock. I treat others with kindness and appreciation. Next is the apology and forgiveness tool. Putting our hands together like that, as if like you put some glue there, repairing and mending relationships. I admit my mistakes and work to forgive yours. Next is the patience tool. Rubbing our hands together like that wood planer. I am strong enough to wait. The last tool, Mark worked with a school in Northern California, thought they were finished, and then right at the end of his 1 year of working with students, a second grader came in and said, Mr. Collin, you need one more tool. And he said, what's that? Well, you need the courage tool. Because when I go home and my family is joking at me and not using their tools, you have to have the courage to do the right thing. So the hand gesture for that is your hand on your heart. I have the courage to do the right thing.
I have the courage to do the right thing.
Now, once you share this foundation lesson, this lanyard, and the appreciative inquiry approach of asking ourselves and one another what tools could help begins that empowerment, the intervention and prevention for supporting families and community wellness. And we've seen, so this lanyard is what we use in the educational system. In the high school and junior highs, we have like small posters that fit into pockets. And in the corporate world, we have a corporate toolbox lanyard card to create that common language. And I'd like to invite everyone to wake up your chat bar and chat in to everyone. What's a tool you can imagine yourself using today that could help you as you navigate the rest of your day? And now what I'm asking you to do is the really important concept of going first and modeling this program in your own life. So when I'm sharing my screen, I can't listen. I'm looking for the chat. Let's see what people are saying. Garbage can tool. Empathy tool.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found in the classroom, what we find in the classroom and in families that put a visual poster we call the refrigerator piece, you read through it quickly like that, and then ask that with that inquiry question. In my experience, students are able to self-regulate themselves, like starting the first day of school, throwing themselves on the floor, running around, and within a week, they're self-regulating, able to show up and be learning ready. Patience tool, using our words. Thank you, everyone, for chatting in. And here's a little bit about what is Toolbox.
When we think of emotional intelligence, or we think of social intelligence, we think about the issues of self-regulation, self-knowledge, nonviolence, and self-mastery, really. And we think about resilience. All of what Toolbox is about is all those things. It's a developmental question, or it's a developmental process. What has to happen is, first of all, we have to create a common ground, or a common language. Just like you would in studying any sciences or language arts. And what Toolbox does is provides that language, or that ground, so everybody's on the same page, everybody's standing in the same field together. So in order to do that, in order to have those conversations or be able to make that inquiry, the children and the adults need the tools. They need tools for that, and then subsequently experiences of the tools. And so the inquiry can be made when there are problems or when there are situations, then those tools can be applied. And the languaging is universal or common to have the capacity to understand and to do and make a self-correction and self-reflect in a positive way. Their own inner agency and their own authorship about their lives, and that's where personal responsibility comes from. That's where accountability comes from. The message that behind the statement that we're telling, you know what, I believe in you. I believe that you have the capacity to understand and to do and make a self-correction. And so simply by doing that, the meta message is, I believe in you. That's a very big paradigm change in how we can move forward in the 21st century. We empower them by giving them the dignity and the respect that we know that they have the capacity to do what's right.
So the Toolbox Project is a program that builds resiliency, self-mastery, and empathy for self and others. And this is a program that we see effective as a how to support people with ACEs and trauma. It is easy to implement, and it encompasses the 5 competencies that are defined by CASEL as an effective SEL program, and we are a research-based program. And this is what the children's voices say.
Like, have you ever, like, been, like, so angry you can, like, rip out your hair or something? Sometimes I feel like that.
If there wasn't a toolbox, people would be arguing, screaming, dancing around in class, and, like, getting into fights and arguments and stuff. And you're like squeezing really tight on your hands. You're ready. You have a face on. Your face is getting hot. When I get really sad, upset, when you need some help.
I use them when I get mad so I don't go off the handle.
We had to use it a whole bunch of times to stand up against a bully.
Yeah.
At school, before I had the toolbox, I couldn't go to a safe place when I was frightened. I couldn't go like this.
It gives them sort of a sign pointing to this is what's inside you. This is what you have. These are strategies and these are ideas and concepts that you already possess.
It's a very powerful program that provides a common language for kids, parents, staff. It's beyond a program. It's like a way of life. It's so natural, and it comes so freely to all ages, and it works.
It helps me have fun with things, meet new people, have friends, keep control of what I'm doing, let things go, figure out what I'm doing, and control my actions.
With Toolbox, there may not be as many fights, or kids might think more before they act.
When people bother me, I think, oh, Toolbox. I can take breaths, or we can stop and talk, and I can listen to what they have to say.
You put your eyes to their eyes and your ears to their ears and your heart to their heart, and you talk to them and communicate.
So the ears and eyes is doing their job. They listen and the eyes look. But the heart is taking all that information, and when it comes to your heart, then the brain knows what to do.
I just sit there and think about what happened really, and then see if it was my fault, if any of it was my fault. And if it was, then I would go talk to that person and say that, okay, I'm sorry about this. And then they would sometimes not forgive me, they'll think about it, or they would forgive me right away. She actually cares, and she actually cares about me, then she also cares about herself. And if she cares about me, then we're both balanced.
So there's certain situations that it brings you courage, because you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe and trust that you can do it. You can't just say, I can't do this. And that means you're losing your courage. You're not doing it. And that brings courage when you go, I can do this. I might be struggling, but I can do this.
It's really important to know that you have these tools yourself. So I think it may be something that I could use as well as the students.
I've noticed that grown-ups, they didn't have Toolbox. They didn't have this kind of thing. And so I end up saying, oh, Mom, just use your breathing tool. Breathe in and out. Okay, let's talk about this. Because sometimes grown-ups don't use their tools at all. And it just really throws me, because I've learned Toolbox so much. It's just, wow. We'll breathe, talk together. Even my auntie will do it, my mom, my dad, my grandma. We'll have a family meeting.
It's interesting to me that you really are through Toolbox creating the education of the heart. I have to know how to be in charge of my own well-being and my own essential essence and authentic self, because I know how to come home to my own nature, which no one can really take away from me. And that is the power of Toolbox.
It's like your own school inside of you. If you can remember all these, you're good.
You really need to have a toolbox. If you don't, things are going to get way out of control. There's going to be bullies everywhere, and then arguments popping up all over the school. Yeah. That wouldn't be good. Yeah, that wouldn't. That just wouldn't be good.
Actually, I use all the tools to help me be a better person. Because they do help you to be a better person.
Since I have seen what Toolbox really means, it has really changed my life. It's almost like a superpower to master all of these.
You can't like Toolbox. You love it.
I need the toolbox mostly like until I die, because it's that important to me.
Toolbox helps me understand what's going on around me, and it helps me.
All right, Jean.
Okay. So we love to listen to the voices of children because they say it so well. And it's great to teach kids tools that can actually help them. And it's great to watch adults too learn that they're under their own power and in their own control. And this is a social competency slide. I'm sure you all know this, but it begins within and then moves to self-awareness, self-reflection, self-management, which is what we're really all about, social awareness, and social competency. I think we hear this in the voices of the children. Becky? Having a common language and this set of practice that helps us with emotional regulation is really, really the core of this. And in confronting ACEs and working with trauma-informed schools and trauma-informed families and community agencies, if we can use this or other practices to build connections and strengthen relationships, we really feel like we can face a lot of issues that we see in our world. You might think about the protests that are going on right now and think that if we had every practitioner who deals with the public trained in a set of self-regulation tools, that things might be looking differently these days. So keep that in mind as we go along. Becky? So we call this tools for learning and tools for life. And we feel like any organization can do this, especially the ones that are, oh, there's law enforcement, think of that, foster care. This fits perfectly well with restorative practices. I'm sure that's something that most of you know about in the healthcare and mental health care world. Absolutely in schools and before and after school care. With home and family caregivers, and even in places like nursing homes, any place where there are people who need to have relationships, who need to feel connected so that they can function and be self-managed. All right. So this is something for all of you to think about. Everybody in this audience today is really a community worker who's dedicated to making the community a better place. So you might even take a minute and type in on the chat and answer this question: what do you want most for our community? I'm going to give you just a second to do some of that. And then Becky, you want to jump over to the next slide for you.
And if people would like to unmute themselves and bring their voices in, like what do we want most? Wholeness, actual community, peace, equity, justice. Will we find, you know what didn't show up in our list? High test scores, right? Or you know, our kids to be like rich, because in our trainings around the world, we find that in the heart of hearts, what we want most for people are just what you mentioned. And we find that through the common language practices and strategies of Toolbox, these things are possible.
Yes.
So a little bit of the pedagogy of like what is really underneath Toolbox and why is it so effective. It's this belief in there's a wholeness in each person. The appreciative inquiry, every time you ask yourself or another person what tool could help you, because that's the only tool you need to know after that introduction. That's the only question. When you ask that question, you have an embedded message of I believe in you. And those are the 3 steps of resilience: a caring adult, a caring person, a meaningful contribution to their life, and empowering people to be problem solvers. So, and modeling and going first, being transparent like you all have been today with us, is one of the key principles in Toolbox in creating the common language strategies and practices. Now, the resilience is built by imagining ourselves in a new way, creating a new path forward, which is what we call a paradigm shift. And learning the intelligence in our emotions through the shared conversations with our families or in our schools or businesses. And like Jean shared, using this common language across multiple contexts in our community. What 3 tools can help you? It's a paradigm shift to create a new way forward. We feel like the 12 tools support community resilience. It helps children and adults be learning ready. It supports workplace success. It's trauma intervention and prevention. There is a wellness factor, like I mentioned, that's showing up in the pediatrician's offices here in Boise, and both hospitals have named Toolbox as part of the community wellness initiative for that reason. It's a conflict resolution model, problem solving, and it is, because of its focus on circle work, it is a program of including inclusion, tolerance, and diversity. Jean?
So some of the activities and practices that we want to highlight are, having a visual presence for Toolbox. So this could be a chart on the refrigerator at home, a sign in a business, a bulletin board at school. And, it's great to include the toolboxes, the icons and the hand gestures, because a lot of times, you can look across a room at somebody and make a hand gesture and complete a complete message like, wow, time to use our patience tool here. And that we find that really works in classrooms and in any organization. Sometimes Becky and I will communicate across the room what's going on, and it just it returns us back to a really calm place and a really centered place so that we can keep going and work in hard situations. Making the tools concrete. Sometimes we do this through journaling or artwork or other practices that help everybody make the tool their very, very own. Students make their own lanyards full of their own tools, and they highlight the ones they like the very most and use the very most. And then we also, in our creating the foundation for Toolbox, we create a lot of community agreements. We talk about what our rights and responsibilities are, and we make agreements for how we will function in a classroom or in a business or in a community so that we can hold ourselves accountable for it. So when we create the foundation, we often teach the first 3 tools and then work on daily practice. In school, this might look like a morning meeting where we highlight a tool. We teach kids to identify and name feelings and emotions. And I would grant you that there are a lot of adults that still need to learn to identify and name feelings and emotions so they know where to go from there. We teach empathy, and we establish caring circle practices where people feel included, and if they're not in attendance that day, they know that people are thinking well of them and sending them good thoughts. And then gradually we teach the rest of the tools, and we embed those in daily life in the classroom, in the corporate world, or in the community. Becky?
So here's an example of what it could look like in a classroom. a business, and I just did a 3-month online family toolbox, and creating this visual for a family is equally empowering. Here's the rights and responsibilities. It's a discussion about are the rights that each person has are their literal needs. What do we need as human beings? And then we move to the other side of what action supports and honors those rights. So we have the right to be treated the way we want to be treated. So we each have a responsibility to treat others the way they want to be treated. It's a conversation that you have with the community that you're working within. And then there's this really powerful piece of self-reflection. It's self-discipline and fair practices. It is a way for people to look at their mistakes and come up with a new path forward as a strategy for intervention and prevention. What people love the most, what we find working with people in the education setting and in the community, is that Toolbox has this easily accessed common language, that it's flexible in its structure. You can take these activities and make them work for you in your setting. All right, Jane.
So here's the breathing tool again. So I want you all to, in your own little place where you are, take a breath and see what that brings you. Are you more aware? And I know we all, there's Sally using her tool, very good. You know, this is a part of mindfulness. This is a part of any kind of self-calming or self-visualization that sports people or performance people do. A lot of times teachers will just stand in front of their classroom and breathe, calming themselves and reminding kids to calm down as well. Becky?
So each one of the 12 tools, just want to go back to this, has the tool name.
Yep.
It has a tagline, I calm myself and check in, and then a reflection piece. When I take a breath, I'm more aware. And then in creating a concrete toolbox, each of the tools has an actual tool that represents it. And this is the measuring tape because it records a measured breath. Thank you, Jean.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an inside-out approach. It is an internal locus of control, which is the piece that we want to empower ourselves and our families with, that resilience within ourselves of how to move forward when there's been any situation. And here's what a student.
I dug down really deep till I was in 3rd grade. That's what I feel like. And at 3rd grade, I feel like the toolbox, it has opened up what I have found the treasure that I've been digging for.
There's nothing else like it in the world. It's what gives you the tools to find and strive for that happiness, that altogether thing that we all strive for, and it's just right here. You know, it's in here. It's inside us. It's not out there. I really appreciate it.
That's really what it is for me now. You know, having these tools to deal with everything in your life is about balance. It's about, you know, body and soul awareness and wellness. And that is just as much of a part of your life that needs to be worked on and exercised and studied as much as anything else.
So just to give you a glimpse of the resources that are available through Toolbox Project, we have a website. And then for any educational pieces, we do have a portal that's filled with resources for educators. We have on our website, which I hope you'll go and check out, a number of videos, and feel free to take a look at those. We also have a private educator Facebook group where it's a safe place for educators across the world to share the different projects that they're working on and how Toolbox is impacting their classroom. So we wanted to have you here. We're right at the end of our slide deck, and then we're going to open up to reflection time, a longitudinal impact of Toolbox.
But if I didn't have Toolbox, I think I would have fought fire with fire.
Like I said, Jake and I, we would probably be, I don't know, juvie, jail, somewhere.
No lying, I'd be in the penitentiary. I absolutely would be.
With the Toolbox, I was able to learn how to work with things and able to know where to put that specific thing that I'm feeling and know that it's safe there and that I'm not going to explode and have a huge just episode, you know, and not be able to know what to do about it.
That's really what it is for me now. You know, having these tools to deal with everything in your life is about balance. It's about, you know, body and soul awareness and wellness, and that wellness is just as much of a part of your life that needs to be worked on and exercised and studied as much as anything else.
You need the power of positive thinking to make your world better. And if you have positive thinking, your world becomes better. It works mostly like that.
You have ways to deal with things to progress in life. Because one little mistake, it can break you from 100% good to 2% all of a sudden.
It's just, can you use them? You know, is it within yourself to use them and overcome yourself?
Once I tried it, I just felt so much better. And I'm like, these are really cool tools. I'm going to use these again.
If I didn't have the Toolbox, I would be a follower, and who knows where I'd end up as a follower.
It's just right here. You know, it's in here. It's inside us. It's not out there. I really appreciate it.
You're going to be stuck with yourself for the rest of your life, whether you like it or not. You might as well get to know yourself. You know, and knowing yourself is half the battle.
I just want to be able to be who I am, and for it to be okay, and for everybody just to be okay with that, really, you know?
But if I didn't have
All right. So when we listen to these young adults, it's important to know that they had Toolbox when they were elementary school students. And you can hear what their reflections are. And I think we can probably see in their faces a lot of the people that we work with, or people that are in our own families. So we are ready now to think about questions. You know, how could this affect you? How could this help you, either personally or professionally? And we'd be happy to listen to you with your voice or through the chat. So we'll just wait a couple minutes and see if anybody has questions.
I'm going to stop sharing the slideshow so we can see one another's faces.
Good idea. Yeah, feel free to unmute your microphone and talk to us.
Becky, could you talk a little bit about the family, the family workshop that you did, and how that worked effectively?
Yeah. So I was as a response to the COVID, Mark Collin had just written the curriculum for the Family Toolbox, and I asked if I could do an online webinar for Family Toolbox. It turned out that it was a group in Baja, Mexico that were Hispanic, or the group that really joined. And for 2 months, I did a daily, 5 days a week, 1 hour. And I had about 20 people there. And then we switched the last month to twice a week to wrap up the project. And so what was really empowering about the Family Toolbox was those foundation lessons that we just touched on briefly, all become part of the family meeting, the family council. As a family, you share hopes and dreams. You talk about rights and responsibilities and how to hold one another accountable. Then you move into the problem solving box, and then accessing the tools by saying, you know, what tool will help. And so I would say it was very effective, and looking forward to the next iteration of that family toolbox.
Becky, it was one extended family or several families?
No, they were really people from all around the world. So people would pop in. We had some people from South Africa. We had some people from Hawaii. And then a core of the people were from Baja. And so the whole workshop was bilingual, that I would speak, and then Marcos would bring in the Spanish. So that's how we did that. And the thing that we find with the family toolbox, as with ourselves and with children, is to be patient, that it takes time to make these changes, to come from a place of discernment and non-judgment when we find ourselves in a path where we've made a mistake. And that through the common language and the practice and the support of the community of Toolbox, it does bring people into a new way forward.
This is Jack Barron, and I was attracted to Toolbox for lots of different reasons. One of the main reasons was my experience with dispute resolution. That's what I did in my career. And I was trained in restorative justice practices and mediation practices. And one of the things that I felt like as I was working in those areas with people was we never did have a mechanism of addressing emotions and deal with disputes. Disputes are very emotion driven. And that's what has caused me to be as interested in Toolbox as I am. As I can see now a way forward to help people really have good experiences, if you want to say that, resolving their disputes. Because when they walk away, they won't walk away angry. They won't walk away upset. They may not get what they want, but they'll walk away whole.
Thank you, Jack.
They have also found that the majority of the U.S. population, and maybe throughout the world, has social emotional learning issues, that the ACEs is not just with one population, but it's with all of us. I'm in a small group, and every adult in that group has had limitations on their functioning because of things that happened to them when they were children. And this addresses those and gives them independence and freedom from all those memories and all those restraints that have kept them hostage for many, many years.
Thank you, Sally.
I was just going to say that I think this is a great tool that we could use. We work with families and their kids, and we do to Katie and I, who's also on the call. We're from Family Advocates. And so we also work with, like I work with the parents and she works with the children. And I think it would be great to introduce at the beginning. So then, especially that visual component, and then we could go throughout the session, right? Refer back to those tools to really get that practice in with those families. While, you know, so that we can implement that at mealtime or anytime they're having troubles kind of communicating with their children. Because I mean, that's why our parents come. They want to strengthen their parenting skills, right? And so I think this is a wonderful tool, and I'm excited to see how we can, like, again, introduce that in the beginning and then try to use it throughout.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really fun to see people make this their own and come up with their own solutions that really fit their own situation. That would be very exciting work. Yeah.
So, Florina, is that right? Thank you. I chatted in my email, and so if everyone would like to look in there, and if you and Catherine would like to reach out to me, to us, Jean, if you want to chat yours in there too.
I will.
We'd love to talk about this possibility, because we totally see a partnership here. My best friend is going through the foster parent programming right now because she is foster grandparenting her 3-year-old granddaughter. And what we found is she went through the foster parenting programming, very excellent. And Toolbox was just a support piece of creating just a common language. And it's hard work that these parents are up for. So, yeah.
It is. All right.
This is Maureen. One of the things that I really like is if you have a family who already has had a lot of damage in the family. We've done quite a few parenting classes with women who were incarcerated. And as we give them all of these new parenting tools, a lot of them are overwhelmed with grief at all the things they've done wrong in the past. So I do love the idea of having the apology and forgiveness and of giving people the tools of being able to go back and, you know, and say to your kids, you know, I was doing the best I could with what I had at the time, and now I have some new skills, and let's start over and be fresh and you know, start from a warmer place of love. And a lot of the women were absolutely amazed at how forgiving their children are. They were like, oh no, they'll never forgive me. I'm just so terrible. And these kids are wonderful. They're resilient, and they say, sure, mom, sure, mom, we'll start again.
Yeah.
Right. And, oh, thank you, Maureen. And it's not just children, but it's also spouses. I mean, I've in my work, so in the last 8 years, I've done community presentations and this and that, and couples will come up to me and say, these tools, as simple as they are, saved our marriage, because it creates that space for, like you said, apology and forgiveness. And then it just opens people's hearts up. Yeah. Thank you, Maureen.
This is Noreen Womack, a pediatrician, and you know, I've been in the toxic stress ACEs arena for a while, and what really struck me about Toolbox is how accessible it is, because sometimes we have this vocabulary amongst ourselves that sometimes the people who are living toxic stress don't understand. But Toolbox is so accessible. I mean, it was designed so that a kindergartner and a first grader can understand it and be successful with it. So, you know, it's accessible by age. It's also accessible because the vocabulary is easy to understand. It's there's only 12 tools. It's not like and the other thing is you're not even teaching them something new. You're just teaching them how to use what they already have. You know, when I present Toolbox, I say they're really not tools. They're superpowers that you already have, like the children were saying. They're superpowers you already have inside you. You just have to, just like a muscle, you have to exercise them. So the more you use them, you know, the better you get at them. And, you know, for some kids who never have had a chance to practice any of these, it's kind of fun in the beginning. And then, you know, then it becomes easier and easier the more you work on it. So accessibility is one of my favorite things about Toolbox.
And to add to that, Noreen, it is also can be used with refugees because it has given them the tools to address all the adversity they had in getting here to the U.S. and then how to embrace all the challenges that they have here. So it's been very beneficial. So it goes across all ages, all cultures, you name it. Toolbox is very beneficial.
Thank you, Sally.
All right. So I notice we have about 5 minutes left of our time. I wonder if anybody has any closing thoughts. Roger says, is there any way I could get a copy of the slideshow? We'll get something to you, Roger, that you can send out to everybody. Yeah, no worries there.
That was actually a question from Cynthia that I brought over from my email, but yes,
sure.
For sure.
Great.
I will get it out.
Okay. Becky?
All right. Well, and our last question to you is a personal takeaway for you. Like for you leaving this brief introduction to Toolbox. We like to invite that as our closing thought. And if you'd like to unmute yourself and bring that in or chat it in. So what's a personal takeaway you are leaving with? Oh, and I want to just share this with you. In the classroom, leading these discussions with children, every single hand goes up in the air because they want to share. They're the authority on these things. And so I have to have sticks with kids' names on them and say, I won't have one person share until everyone has a chance to bring their voice in. So I just wanted to let you know that's how accessible it is for working with kids. So I want to thank you all for your courage to go first and to be so involved in this discussion and imagining yourself using the tools. So thank you.
I think for me, being part of the disability community, I'm always looking for ways for people to find their voice and have a say in their life. And I think I can incorporate this so that they can have a voice and have a say, but do it in a manner that others can respect it and understand it, because sometimes that's hard.
Yes. Well, and if I could build on that, so in my experience in the classroom, I had a special ed student who got transferred from the 1 4th grade class to my class mid-year because she was being violent, very out of character for her. But we had to either do that or she was going to need to leave the school system. And so just the second day in the class, sharing those tools with her and then giving this lanyard, it's a paradigm shift, not telling her what tool, but giving her the lanyard and saying, what tool could you use to help you right now? You know what one she picked? Using my words. And then she was able to have a conversation with the principal and the counselor and the student that she was bullying that brought forth what was going on. And so it really is, to your point, a program that's accessible to students on the spectrum. I mean, I have all sorts of stories, autism spectrum and disabilities. So thank you for your comment.
Yeah, even with seniors, I think it would help.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'd love to partner with you in a program like that, bringing it into a senior situation.
Yeah, I think Meridian Senior Center would probably be one of the more receptive ones, but it might be a nice idea because everybody has ACEs. Whether you want to admit it or not, we all do.
Yep.
Yes.
Well,
like Sally said.
Nursing homes could really benefit from this because there's so much bullying that goes on in nursing homes, and it's just making them aware of the benefits of Toolbox. And Roger, I want to thank you for hosting Toolbox and sharing that out, because we've been working with Toolbox for quite a while, and it's just having these openings and the people that believe in the power of the tools. So thank you.
Yeah.
You are welcome. But you've been kind of after me for a while, so I'm glad I finally did it.
Sally is a persistent person. That's her superpower.
Well, and my takeaway is similar to Jean, being able to have this conversation with you all and the work that you do in our community is such an honor. And now we're connected. So I look forward to what lies ahead for us. And I end all of my Toolbox workshops like this. What 3 tools can you use today? And believe in yourself because you are enough.
Yes.
And I look forward to talking to you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jean.
Roger, for hosting.
Thank you, Becky.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks.